Welcome to Retirement Ramblings. I'm Scott, and today is day 105 on my countdown to retirement, plus a quick catch up for day 106. So, yesterday, which was day 106, I had morning meetings, and then my buddy's wife texted me that she had taken off for the day, and so I wouldn't need to go take him for his cataract follow up later in the afternoon. She would take care of that. I would only need to take him on Friday, which I'd already budgeted on my calendar to do. So that freed up the second part of my afternoon. So given that that happened, I asked my wife if she wanted to go out to lunch. She said yes. So she picked a Mexican place. So we went out there and I got a lunch portion of the steak fajitas. And because it was a Wednesday, they also were running a special on tacos for 99 cents. And I've never had any of the tacos there, so I asked them to try a chicken taco, so that's what I had. And then my wife ended up getting some burrito special. And then on the way home, we stopped at the mailboxes. We have a kind of a central mailbox area in our community instead of having a mailbox right in front of your house. So we stopped, got our mail. As part of that, I had the premium renewals for my auto policies came in from State Farm, and went home, opened the policies, and it's the first time that I can remember where my renewal policy actually went down. So my 6 month renewal with State Farm dropped by 5.06% for this upcoming renewal. And that's with me doing nothing. Like, I didn't put that little gizmo into the car that tracks your driving and potentially can give you up to 10% or whatever off. I have all the other deductions, but just I don't like that idea of putting that in there while I'm driving. I just, whatever. It's just something that for me is a problem. Anyway, my 2007 truck is going to renew at approximately $80.65 a month. It's got full coverage, except that I had to change the collision to $2,000 instead of $1,000 as the deductible to get the price to go down the last time before I did the renewal. But outside of that, it's full coverage, and I ended up paying it in full. So while I'm telling you what the monthly fee is, that's if I paid monthly, that's what it would be. I just paid the entire amount. And then my wife's 2022 crossover SUV is going to be about $112.79 per month for her full coverage. So again, net, we're seeing a savings of 5.06% for the next 6 months. And then I guess we'll see what happens. Then my wife received a text from my daughter-in-law letting us know that day 106 was her official 10th week of pregnancy. So that was good to know. Then I watched Jerome Powell's speech for the press conference and the question and answer session, followed by the interview with Jeffrey Gundlach of Double Line Capital on CNBC. That always happens on Fed Day. So then after that, I spoke with my mom, and she was all excited because the construction team in her condo came today and spent most of the day installing a new pair of front doors for her. So they were wrapping that up, and they need to come back tomorrow to be able to do some final tweaks and any kind of paint touch-ups that they need to do from messing up the paint a little bit on the installation. So that'll happen. And then at the end of the day, I got to call a buddy of mine who he lives in Florida, and every time I think about calling him, I look at the clock and it always ends up being too late. So I thought about it last night. It wasn't too late. So I picked up the phone, called him, and we chatted for about an hour. And now, both of us are caught up on each other's lives. The last time I got a chance to talk with him was just before we went on our cruise. So it would have been the last week in July that I talked to him. So now we're all caught up, which moves me on to day 105, which is today. So my buddy whose wife took him for his follow-up let me know that at the end of the follow-up, he has 20/20 vision in that eye, which is amazing because He was legally blind in that eye. He had had a detached retina that they previously repaired, and then the cataract surgery was to give him back some vision, but they weren't actually expecting him to get 20/20. So again, from going from legally blind to 20/20, I think is awesome. And he then had his second eye done today, and then I'll take him tomorrow for the follow up where they'll test that eye, I guess, and both eyes together, and maybe for the first time in the 30 plus years that I've known him, he may not have to actually have glasses, which would, I'm sure, for him be awesome. And then, he had been kind of bitching about the cost because he's 59, and he's going to have to come out of pocket for the surgery. And so he told me that the surgery was going to be just over $9,000. And, my response is, if you go from legally blind to 20/20 vision, that's the best freaking $9,000 you could ever spend. So, I'm totally psyched for him. Anyway, my wife also had to go to the eye doctor today because she slept on her stomach, I guess, at some point, and her face was in the pillow. And then when she woke up, she had this thing, and she thought she had makeup in her eye or something. But anyway, long story short, she ends up going to the doctor, finds out she has a floater in whichever eye it is, and now she has to go back in 6 weeks to see if the floater resolves itself, gets any worse, different size, different shape, breaks up, whatever. So that's going to be another thing that we'll deal with from her vision for this year. And then I had meetings for most of the day, but when they were over, I put together my weekly shopping list, and the key items that I got on the list for this week are over at Kroger. They've got Jimmy Dean bacon or sausage on sale for $3.99 each, and then at Publix they've got my porterhouse and T-bones on sale for $13.99. Still not an absolutely great price, but way better than I've been able to get it recently. And then over at Lidl, they've got Smithfield fresh baby back ribs for $2.49 a pound with my Lidl. So I'm sure I'll be picking up each one of those items probably tomorrow or Saturday. And then after I put together the list, I got logged onto YouTube just to see if there's anything popping up in my feed that was interesting. And a video popped up from Tina from This Is Our Retirement, and it was her second video. The first one obviously was informing us about Norm's death, and then this one was called What Would Norm Want? So I watched that video, and the gist of that was basically she wants to be able to continue to grow the community that they've got from roughly 115,000 subscribers up to 250,000. That's the goal that he had in mind before passing, and so she'd like to honor him by trying to continue to grow the channel to that amount in his honor or his name. And then I looked at the clock, and it was just before 4 o'clock. So at 3:58, I turned on the TV to watch the last 2 minutes as the market wound up to the close. And following yesterday's quarter point reduction by the Fed, all four of the U.S. stock market indexes, so S&P 500, NASDAQ, Dow, Russell 2000, all closed at new record highs today, all four of them. And for the Russell 2000, this is the first record close since 2021. So in like 3 years, that was over 900 days. I forget the exact count, but it's a long time since it had a fresh record high. So, for anybody that's been suffering with small caps, they should be happy today. And then when my wife got back from the eye doctors, because she hadn't eaten hardly anything today, she was really hungry, so she asked we can go out to dinner early. So we ran out and just got a pizza at Mellow Mushroom. So we got a Mighty Meaty, had that, like I said, early. And then after we got home, my daughter-in-law had sent her the latest sonogram, but both as a picture and as like a 6-second video. But that was pretty exciting. And then I don't know who called too, because I walked out of the room for a second and then came back, and my daughter-in-law was on the phone. So I don't know if my wife called her or she called my wife. Either way, put her on speaker, and then we chatted for maybe a half an hour. and just got caught up on what's going on. And on Monday, she goes in for her actual full appointment. So we'll get more updated information come Monday. And that's really my update for yesterday and today. So if you have any questions or comments, please drop them in the comment section down below or drop me an email at myretirementramblings@gmail.com. Otherwise, I hope you have a great evening, and until tomorrow, take care.